What's up guys, Dark Lord Ace 3 here, and I'd already done a lot of work on the Game of the Year video, and I thought it would be fun to segment out some of the video and just give some mini reviews, and without further ado, here's my mini review of Returnal. Returnal, man, what a game, oh man, this has to be the most underrated game all year, and it wasn't on enough people's radar. And I have to assume that it's a little bit because of it's a niche game in an already niche market since who owns a PS5? But man, if you have a PS5, this is totally worth the look. It's a third-person shooter roguelike bullet hell and has a little bit of a time loop gimmick, and I think that really helps contextualize the roguelike mechanics. There are 6 biomes, and when you get to a new one, you get to carve out a little bit more of the story and the mystery, and occasionally you go into Celine's house and you know on the alien planet, and there's always a bit of a mystery, like why is Celine's house on the alien planet, and what's going on here. um, Honestly though, the story is pretty ambiguous, and I definitely had to look up what happened, and there are quite a few different interpretations of the events, and I don't know, I just felt like the story was so gripping and intriguing, and I still think about it like to this day. I think the gameplay is really quite tight too. It runs very smooth. There are like a few frame rate hitches here and there, but like nothing that will get you killed per se. It is quite a difficult game though, and I think this turned off a lot of people. Even bills itself as a challenging experience before you even start the game. And if you're anything like me, you'll die a lot, but through each loop, you'll discover yourself getting better and better and learning more about the game's mechanics, and unlocking permanent upgrades. And it definitely throws you into the fire, and it even gets progressively harder after each biome, which it does it at a pretty fair rate. But of course, if you know Housemark, none of this will surprise you. They've always done it like this. They've always, try to, every time you play a Housemark game, you try to, it's always really difficult at first, and then you play it more and more, and then you progressively get better and better at it, and then you just feel yourself getting better, and then it's so satisfying. At your best, you're you're ducking and weaving between tons and tons of projectiles and firing back, and you feel like a complete badass because you had to put in the work to get to this point, and you definitely, you feel paid off for getting to this point. And but that's the thing though. I don't think this is for everyone, but it was, definitely for me. I felt like my patience with the game was, it was rewarded in spades, and I still want to go back sometimes and play some more, even after earning the Platinum Trophy. And speaking of the Platinum Trophy, I think it does somewhat negatively affect my review here, because at some point you get so comfortable with the mechanics, the game really stops surprising you, and you kind of understand its systems well enough, and there isn't as much variety. Since the Platinum demands a lot of hours you put in, with the RNG collectibles, it starts getting really noticeable. Like, for example, you learn pretty quickly, like, the corruption mechanic isn't really worth it most of the time. You just kind of avoid going for those pickups altogether. And also, like, these parasites, but again, most of them won't be worth picking up since their drawbacks are truly too severe for what they offer. Like, sometimes, I think the best one would be like, if you die, you get to be revived, but you have way less health. But like, that's really worth taking, because it saves you from a death. It's almost like having more health. So it's like, why wouldn't you take that? Like, of course, if you live through it, and you'll still have like very little max health, but there's no reason not to take that one, right? But I do wish there were like more play styles I could adopt and break up the monotony between runs. But I really did feel more so this way because I was going for the Platinum Trophy. Um, but what I mean typically is, with the monotony, is that roguelikes typically offer power-ups and weapons, and they give you a lot of variety in how to approach each run, but that's not really true in Returnal, aside from like the actual guns, uh, because most of the pickups are usually stat-based, like it increases your cooldowns, it restores your health, it gets you higher adrenaline at a faster rate and stuff like that. It's like all the permanent stuff is tied to parasites, but like most of those, like I said earlier, we're not picking worth picking up. Um, None of the items and upgrades, they don't really contribute to actual builds other than the weapons. And like of course you'll pick up a sword, but that's permanent, right? Uh, that's going to be part of your arsenal no matter what. Like I think it would have been a little more interesting if you could pick up the sword, separately. For example, like in a run. Um, I just think they could have done that a little better. Like make it some, or you have more of a variety with. But maybe I'm not a game designer. I don't know. Uh, I can only speak for myself also, but I only found like 3 or 4 of the weapons actually worth using, and I pretty much actively avoided the rest because I think they were either too slow or they just didn't give enough benefits. Although I am very curious if on future runs if I can go and upgrade those and see how useful they'd actually end up being, and it's something to play around with in the future. And that all of this said, I still enjoyed running around and making meaningful decisions with some of the items, though. Like when a parasite would offer such a good bonus but such a bad drawback, it would make me pause, think about it. Like, hey, do I actually want this? Like, of course the revive one is pretty much you just take that no matter what. But I also enjoyed those, like there's like these random chance health pickups, like a little later in the game there's like a health pickup. It has a chance to either permanently increase your health or it'll hurt you, like, and it's just an RNG chance. And it's just, I always thought that decision was really interesting because it's like, oh, like when you have adrenaline level 5, um, basically like it's like a combo, right? Like if you keep killing enemies, your adrenaline meter keeps going up, and at every 1 increment, you'll get a different bonus. And at level 5, you get a shield. So it's like, you have 2 ticks toward a permanent health upgrade, 3 ticks toward a permanent health upgrade, and let's say you have 2 ticks, and it's like you have 2 ticks going on, and you have a shield, and you get to this health upgrade, and you're just like, well, I could either take damage and lose my shield, or I could permanently raise my health, so I'd have a shield and a permanently more health. So I always thought that decision was really interesting. Um, as for the platinum trophy, I really think this maybe the game less because they're just RNG collectibles. Like I said earlier, it's all random. Like if the room is in like a certain shape, it will have the collectible you want. But like everything surrounding the collectibles just is really muddy and unclear. And doesn't really like. It's no way to track which ones you have, and there's not really like a quick way to look on the map and see where they are, since they're denoted the same as collectibles like parasites and proficiency upgrades, which means you'll just be wasting a lot of time running around looking for upside down fucking triangles. I just think there's so many better ways to remedy this, but this was like the worst way possible. All in all, I think this shouldn't affect my recommendation to most people, since most people aren't completionists. But if you are one, that really is something to keep in mind. Like expect to spend anywhere between 30 and 50 hours total if you're a completionist. That said, I do really recommend Returnal. So.